let's get you the very latest on the Pac-12 TV situation. How much does the Pac-12 need to get per school on an annual basis? We have done a lot of homework on this over the last couple of days. Remember, we told you yesterday in a Monty Show exclusive that the Pac-12 is in fact back at the table with ESPN and Fox Sports in a deal that would largely be centered around ESPN2 and FS1, as well as heavily streamed on ESPN+. A lot of the basketball would live on Fox Sports. Most of the football would live on the ESPN family of networks. But what is that deal worth? A lot of Pac-12 fans in the comments section yesterday get heated when I say I haven't been able to find anybody who believes that deal eclipses $10 million a year. And I can confirm that through multiple sources, well-placed television sources yesterday telling me it would, quote, be a Hail Mary if the Pac-12 is able to get more than $10 million a year per school. And you're looking at a deal, and remember, we go back 18 months. What did I tell you? That their media rights deal with that ESPN and Fox deal was at the time when they still had all of their membership. $90 million a year was the number. That was the hard stop that ESPN was putting on the Pac-12. That number has not changed, because the thing that was explained to me yesterday, and I think it is a really salient point, ESPN has all the brands they need. They're not buying brands. They're buying time zones, and they are buying windows, late windows. That's what you're getting in the Pac-12. But at what cost? In my opinion, I think that cost is $10 million per year per school. I think that's why it is so vitally important that the Pac-12 get to a place where they're not just at 8 teams. They have got to be at 10 teams. And eventually, they've got to be at 12 teams. But as soon as they possibly can, they are going to have to get to 10 teams. I was also told by a well-placed source that they have an understanding in their TV negotiations, because I think it's also important to note they are not only talking to ESPN and Fox. They are also still in conversations with the CW, I am told. They have also had conversations with CBS Sports. Those conversations did not yield the assets that ESPN and secondarily Fox Sports is bringing to bear, mainly in everybody's pocket, on everybody's phone with ESPN Plus. The streaming part of that is significant. So that's why we're hearing now that ESPN and Fox Sports is the most likely destination for the Pac-12. But one of the things that's so interesting is the conversations the Pac-12 is having with their potential TV partners about who they are targeting in expansion. And I am told very clearly and plainly that ESPN and Fox are on board if the Pac-12 is able to make an agreement with Sacramento State. I talked to a lot of people, both at Sac State and around Sacramento yesterday, who all are telling me their boosters, their donors, their faculty and staff, their infrastructure at Sac State is all in on getting to the Pac-12. It's what they are angling for. And a lot of it is that Sac State wants to be a dual threat in football and in basketball. And Jake, if you're Sacramento State, I do believe that the Pac-12 is a home run.
Yeah, for Sacramento State, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you're upgrading your situation. Obviously, you know, it's everything you would want in an athletic program, right? You're leveling up. You're on from FCS to FBS. Like, you're getting into a better conference, a better situation. You know, and I'm sure there will be some challenges with that for Sac State, but ultimately that's the goal. You're trying to improve your situation. And so, you know, I think for the Pac-12, you know, Sac State is a nice story. You know, obviously, you know, it's not a team it's not like a power team coming to your conference or anything, but if it helps you get a deal with ESPN and Fox, that's obviously what you need to happen. And I think this is the most important part of the conversation for the Pac-12 is that this TV deal, you know, it's not necessarily just about the value. The value really matters. 8 to 10 is obviously what we're being told. You know, that seems to be what everyone's kind of agreed upon. But let's say that the TV deal does happen. From there, then we have to talk about, okay, well, what can you do to get in to the college football playoff more often? Because Sac State's not getting into the college football playoff with regularity. Sorry to break it to you. And I look at the college football playoff picture today, as we've talked so much about it on the show, and I sit here and say, yeah, the picture we have today is pretty indicative of what it's going to be for the Pac-12 down the road, assuming that the college football playoff is still a thing 5 years from now and we don't have a super league and that whole conversation doesn't happen. But the Sac State thing is great. It's a nice story. If it helps you get the TV deal, that's awesome, and I'm happy for the Pac-12. But the larger picture conversation for schools like Boise State and several others who join this conference is, how are we going to go about making more money? Because again, you're not getting away from the point that these schools now are being tasked with, okay, we joined a new conference, we're working on this TV deal. Let's call it $10 million a year we're getting from the TV deal. Now what? Now, how do we get into the tournament every single year? How do we go to at least a bowl game every year and get shares out of the bowl game? Like, these are all questions that I think athletic departments and football programs and basketball teams have to ask, because that's how you're going to survive. That's what makes the whole situation better for these schools.
Yeah, and I think the couple other details out of conversations I had with sources yesterday include, what is the distribution percentage and what is that agreement like with somebody like a Boise State? Because I think one of the things that was so clear, Boise State ran the finances in the Mountain West. They were getting an unequal share. That was to try and placate them. Is that same deal in place with new membership in the Pac-12? Because if you go to, let's say, 10 and you get $90 million, now that lawsuit with the Mountain West becomes pivotal, because you have to find a way to stipend Boise State, which is what you allegedly promised them to leave the Mountain West. I think that is a very key part of this conversation. And you look at how this money is allocated in different conferences, and you look at the unequal revenue distribution, you look at the Mountain West model or the AAC model, you're paying your biggest brands more money. You're giving a full share to Gonzaga already to join the conference. Had to do it. Great move. What is your promise? What is your handshake agreement with Boise State? And how much of that money are they getting? And if you lose that lawsuit against the Mountain West, or it is dismissed, which, again, yesterday, multiple people told me yesterday they don't believe that the Pac-12 has a leg to stand on in their and really it comes down to a unfair commerce. This idea that, hey, it's unfair to charge exiting members a fee and then charge us a fee for poaching. Most people believe, hey, you signed that contract knowingly and without duress. You're not going to be able to get out of that. Can you negotiate the Mountain West down? Well, the Mountain West has not shown the willingness or the want to do that.
Or the need.
Well, but how much in legal fees, and what is the tipping point in legal fees? Because that's really what this is going to come down to. What is the appetite of the Pac-12 to continue to throw bad money after bad money in a position where they know they're just trying to negotiate? Because nobody believes the Pac-12 wants us to go to a judge, because that's a bad outcome. That is a bad outcome for the Pac-12 if this antitrust, anti-interstate commerce suit essentially goes in front of a judge. The Pac-12's percentages are not high. And I think that's a really important part of this conversation, because if the Pac-12 is able to leverage ESPN for a $10 million per school deal, I think you're going to have to give Boise State and probably San Diego State an unequal share of that. And I also think that's why these next 2 seasons of basketball are critically important. If you are Boise State and San Diego State and Gonzaga and all of these new members, you have to continue to win, because you have to recruit basketball at a high level, because those tournament shares early in the life of this new Pac-12 are really incredibly important to pay the light bill. It is really important that you put multiple teams into the NCAA tournament. I think it is not, I don't even think it is an option to just have Gonzaga. You need San Diego State to continue their trajectory in basketball, in my opinion.
Totally
it's got to happen. One other thing, I also had a conversation with a guy about Utah State. What value does Utah State bring to the Pac-12? I think the entirety of their value is that they're a full share member and they play football. It is still head scratching to many. And this has been a hot button issue on this show the last couple of months. Who would the Pac-12 add? And when they added Utah State, it took a lot of people by surprise because of the lawsuits, because it involves the DOJ, because it involves Title IX. A lot of people were surprised by that. And I was asked very pointedly, well, what value did Utah State bring to the Pac-12? Yeah, I don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know either, other than that they are a full share member that plays football.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think at the time when Utah State was sort of in the middle of the conversation, like that's all it was. It wasn't like, oh, Utah State's like some juggernaut of a athletic department. It's more like, hey, like, yeah, they play both, full share. You know, we need them to kind of solidify some things.
Yeah.
Like that's what that was. And I think that's why the willingness to bring them in, even with all the issues, was there, because the Pac-12 had a need. And I can't emphasize this enough. And people are forgetting about this entirely, in my opinion. You're making deals right now based on the fact that you need money. It's based on the fact that you have to do X so that you can survive. So adding Utah State, could that come back to get you? Maybe. Will there be some pain as part of that process? Probably. But you had to do that, you know? Does the unequal revenue sharing with Boise State come back to cause problems? Maybe. But you had to do that to put a conference back together. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of these steps that have been taken that you had to do as part of your path back to being a conference. But I'm just curious, will some of these come back up down the line after a TV deal is done and after you've played a season and all that? Because I do think that's a factor.
Yeah, and this is also why the GCU win for the Mountain West was so critically important. I think it's why the Gonzaga win for the Pac-12 and I think was incredibly important. But you have to remember, and I think people forget this part, the tournament shares do not move with the teams. They stay in the conference. And it's again why I will continue to tell you, basketball is incredibly important. It is the powerhouse and the financial revenue generator in the Big 12 and the ACC right now, and it needs to be that for both of these conferences. And obviously, in the Pac-12, you cause significant damage to the Mountain West financially. There is no doubt about that. That's why this lawsuit and the what I am told is the specific language in the contract between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West that included those poaching fees, the specific language that they wrote into that deal to protect themselves in the Mountain West, it's bulletproof. It is going to be really hard for the Pac-12 to win that case in front of a judge, and it's pulling a negotiating lever. Let's get into mediation. Let's talk about how we can pay you less poaching fees. That's why the Pac-12 filed that lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than where Florida State and Clemson are with the ACC right now. They don't want that in front of a judge. They want negotiations.
Yeah, it's become common practice. So we don't like what we did. We're going to sue you, and hopefully we can get some, hopefully we can get something.
No doubt. Oak State James for $5. If Sac State can get into the Pac-12, bro, you said this exact same thing yesterday. You just paid us $5 to make the exact same comment you made yesterday, and the exact same comment we told you about weeks ago. This is cool. It's not a big deal. It is not a big deal. And frankly, Sac State they have the hearts and the minds of Sacramento. So they could play their games at the old baseball stadium that was never built next to Arco Arena, and people would go and watch them play basketball. It is significant because Vivek Ranadive, the owner of the Kings, has said that he will give them the building rent-free. That's cool. And it does not make them much more attractive to future recruits. It does not. What makes Sacramento State, what would make them more attractive is they'd be in an FBS conference. That's what would the arena you play basketball in. I don't care what anybody says. Grand Canyon's arena is far more attractive than playing it at Golden One Center in Sacramento. It's the reality of it. Like when you're a college kid, you want a college environment.
Yeah.
Golden One Center in Sacramento does not give you a college environment. And playing in places like Cameron Indoor, the Dean Dome comes to mind, GCU's arena, playing it at the Pit, like all these great basketball venues, Madison Square Garden. Those are great basketball venues for college kids.
Well, Monty, what do you mean? It's Madison. It's the Knicks professional building. Why is that any better than the Kings building? Oh, I don't know, because it's Madison Square Garden and it has a storied tradition, and like they've been doing that for years. Like there's a again, a tradition.
Yeah, I don't know. It is to me. Yeah. Anyway, let's get some of your comments in here. How much money do you think the Pac-12 needs to get per year in the comment section? I think it's got to be 10. If it's 7, 8, 9, you're going to have a really difficult time, in my opinion. It's got to be 10. And I just have not been able to find somebody to tell me that it's more than 10. I was told yesterday they haven't even talked about more than 10. And the problem, again, is this cart before the horse thing. It's the if you, then we conversation.
Right.
Which is a tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot to be in. Charles, how is Gonzaga going to be successful each year? What do you mean?
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know what that means. Gonzaga also struck a deal with SWX that broadcasts their games all over the Northwest. I was in here yesterday and did not see any Pac-12 supporters get mad over what Monty said. Are you out of your mind? Go read the comment section from yesterday. You should pay attention. Welcome to the nightmare. 10 million would be a nice round number for each Pac-12 team. It would.
Yeah.
It would. It is.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those numbers where it's like, that's probably top of the mountain, but also like from a publicity standpoint, it's a nice, like, hey, we got 10 mil a year per school.
Yeah, I think 10 million is a huge.
Yeah, and hopefully we can build on that and we can bring value, and our next time around we can bump that up to 11 or 12.
Yep. Salty Virginia Peanuts. The Mountain West has a rock solid case. They will not let it go nor compromise. No need to do so. Yeah, I don't think you would negotiate that deal down. That's my opinion. I don't think there is. Why would you?
Yeah, I just don't. That's kind of my point with the Mountain West is I don't. I just don't see a need for them to compromise on any level. You signed an agreement. You did exactly what the agreement had written into it. Like you poach schools, and now you don't want to pay the fee. The Mountain West has them.
Yeah.
And I just again, and I agree with you. Hey, legal fees always matter, and how much are we willing to put in? But when you have the hammer of, hey, if we go to a judge, you're going to lose. There's no need to compromise. There's no need to cut them a break or do any of that. I would not compromise on any level if I was Mountain West.
Wasikowski paid us $5 to get his comment filtered. What did you say in that comment? Like I go to read your paid comment and it's filtered. What did you either said something dumb or you used a bunch of emojis, or knowing you, probably both. Probably both. And Jay McClenahan had you guys, I don't know what the filter, what's going on with the filtered comments today, because there is a ton of them.
Yeah.
We're not talking politics today. We're not, that's not what we do. It's so I appreciate all the comments, and different show, man. Charles, ESPN loves them some Gonzaga. The night TV slot, name me a better team out west basketball-wise to fill that slot consistently. So you really think that Gonzaga is a team that everybody watches? I would not agree with that. I think that they're a good basketball program for sure, but it's Spokane, Washington.
Yeah, I think Duke is ESPN's sweetheart.
I would agree with that.
I think Cooper Flag and Duke and that whole situation happening there
I would agree
is
with that.
exactly what ESPN wants.
100% I would agree with that. I think if you look at the you look at the hierarchy of basketball in this country, games in Spokane with Gonzaga are not it. It's what if it was what everybody wanted, then why do you not have an ESPN deal? Why are you a regional team? Why are you, if you're everybody's darling, why did you choose the Pac-12 over the Big 12?
How many people even knew Gonzaga was playing Baylor the other night?
I don't think many.
And by the way, if ESPN loves Gonzaga so much, why has the posterization of Mark Few's kid been all over ESPN? Why is the question
Yeah.
to Mark Few about, hey, well, your kid and posterize and like Gonzaga's a brand in basketball, but make no mistake about it. Duke's paying the bills. UNC's paying the bills.
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality of the situation.
Plus, the Mountain West commissioner is savvy and badass. I'll bet she's pissed. I would think so. And and I know, again, if you go and read our comments section, people get so upset when I say this is business as usual. Poaching teams out of the Mountain West, while I understand it, it's business as usual for the Pac-12. It's not, it's what they've always done. And you look at the GCU relationship, and I don't think that it was accidental that you have the president at GCU talking about how they have a long, or Jerry Colangelo actually said,
yeah,
they've had a long relationship. And I meant to get the sound that President Mueller at GCU crushed it in this press conference the other night. Like, I'm telling you now, Gloria Nevarez is well liked. She's respected, and she's a savvy business person.
which matters when you're talking about expansion.
Yeah. The Mountain West has the pack by the fuzzy balls when it comes to the contractual obligations with the poaching fees. I wouldn't back down from having them pay full price. I don't know. Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you? I don't know why you would. Honestly, I don't know why you would.
And again, this is kind of my point about the Pac-12's plight in life right now. Like, I don't agree, like, morally with poaching teams at other conferences, the way they went about it. But we also can't skip over the fact that that's what you had to do to rebuild your conference.
Yeah.
Like you were never going to go to Gloria Nevarez and have her say, yeah, sure, you go ahead and take our best brands. No problem. Don't pay any. Like, that was never going to happen. So you had to do it. So rather than folks, because I think a lot of people think the Pac-12 is like trying to just skip out on all these obligations. They have to try to do this. They don't have a choice but to go this route. So yes, if you're the Mountain West, you're not going to compromise, but we shouldn't be sitting here expecting the Pac-12 to do something different, because this is their only path. They don't have a choice.
No, I agree. I totally agree. Because one other point that I think comes up a lot on this show is, can the Pac-12 ever become a power conference again? And I think the answer is no, because so many Pac-12 fans, and yesterday in the comment section again, oh, we're getting those teams out of the AAC. I don't know that you're doing that. And even if you do get Memphis, let's say, because everybody thinks Memphis is the prize.
Right.
Does that make you a power conference?
No.
I don't think it does. And I think that's one of the reasons that Memphis, Tulane, and USF is broken ground on an on-campus stadium now.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they leave the AAC to join the Pac-12? And again, if it's $2 million, they're getting 8 in the AAC, and they would get, let's say they get 10 in the Pac-12. Are you doing that for $2 million? You're going to spend far more than that to be a member of that conference. It just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah.
It does not add up to me. Let's see. Eric says, don't even want to play a soundbite as a peace offering. A peace offering of...
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?